Welcome to the Catholic Charities Netsmart training video. I will be your instructor for the day. My name is Robert Manfredi. Sit back and enjoy, because today you're going to learn how to use the Netsmart Avatar product. This video will teach you how to do a nice free progress note. We're going to go into search forms and just type the word note in. And we'll click the magnifying glass to make this a little bit easier to read, because we can also sort from here. If we look, we see that there are 3 screening admission note forms in the system. The first is a plain note, the one above that is a bundle, and the one above that is a report. Let's talk about what the differences between them are. This bottom one, the note, is the screening admission information minus the diagnostic screen. The bundle will kick off the screening admission note, and then when that is complete, we'll open up a second form, which is the diagnosis screen. So a bundle will kick off more than one form, and in this case, it's all the forms that are needed for screening and admission. The report is the output report that is associated with the screening admission. It will format it the exact way that the NICE-SCREE form looks like, the exact look and feel of the paper that the NICE-SCREE committee has created. So we look and we say, well, there are 3 screening admission notes, 1 pre-admission, a nursing progress note short, and a number of others. Now, virtually all of these forms work exactly the same way. There's one exception to that rule, and that is the NICE-SCREE group note. The NICE-SCREE group note works completely different than how the other ones work, and there'll be a complete separate video to show you how to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to do the individual counseling and psychotherapy note for this example, because this is probably the most common form that people will be using. So I'm going to double click, and we're going to open that form up. Well, the first thing we have to do is select the client. Well, I'm going to jump back to the home screen for a moment, and I'm going to show you that we have an appointment today for Robert Smith at 11:30. We're going to write the note for Robert Smith. So we're going to bring back up the individual counseling note, and I'm going to type in Smith and Robert Smith we're going to select. It picked the episode for me because there was only one that was appropriate with my security rights. And we're going to do this through the choice of existing appointment. Now realize, if we had waited till the end of the day or the next day, after a checkout occurs by the front desk staff, existing appointments become existing services. That's what happens at checkout. So the next day, if I was writing this note, I would be clicking existing service and finding it that way. But since I'm doing it the same day, and I know a checkout hasn't happened yet, I'm going to click existing appointment. We next go to note addresses which existing service or appointment. Now there appears to be a whole lot here. That is because this is a sample database, and we have put in a number of forms for this person, a number of appointments, and never finished the process. The one we want was on 4/11, which is today, the date that I'm actually doing this, and it's a CD individual 45 plus. If we go back to the home screen, we'll see that the client had, and if I hover over this, we can see that it's a CDS individual 45 plus. That was the last line that kind of popped up and then disappeared. So let's go back into the note. The note type is important. It's a required field, and you pick whatever is appropriate for you. The important thing to note is this line that says therapist, counselor, co-signature. If you enter this line, it will require you to invoke the document routing feature, so that when you finalize it, it has to go to someone else for a co-signature. Well, I'm Betty Baker in this sample, and Betty, we're going to assume, is just a regular therapist counselor. So we're going to click therapist counselor. At this point, we have to look at the rest of the data on the screen. This block here is automatically filled in from the appointment data. We have to verify that this is still accurate, because it may or may not be. A client could have, for example, if we look at the start time, could have come 5 minutes early or may have come 10 minutes late. Let's go into the assumption that this person actually came in at 11:40, not 11:30. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to type in 11:40A, and I'm going to tab out of the field. Now, if you notice, if we actually ended the session at 12:15, which is the time it was supposed to end, we would have only done a 35-minute session. If that's the case, we would actually have to change the service code over here from being a 45 plus to being one of the lower level services, ones that are, I think, 30 plus or something like that. But instead, I want to say we actually are going to do a 45-minute session. I'm going to tab out of the field. It bumped up a bit, and if you notice, this time did not change. This time should say 12:25, because that would be 45 minutes. So I'm going to have to manually change that. Please realize that on some screens, when you enter a service duration, it adjusts the end time. Sometimes it does not. You have to check. I'm going to click in now to the notes field. This is a required field. This is where you'd enter the bulk of your notes. And I'm going to just, because this is a sample, I'm going to write just a single sentence. You would obviously, in the real world, be writing a much more lengthy note. The client was engaged and talkative today, not spelled right. And is concerned about his employment history. Well, that's just some fake data, but you would fill in whatever is appropriate. We're going to slide down a bit. And I am not going to go over all of these fields which are required NICE fields. They're not red required Netsmart fields, but according to NICE, we're supposed to be filling out all these fields. I'm going to skip that for the purposes of this demo because these are just checkboxes and radio buttons and text fields that I think we can pretty much assume you would know how to fill out. I'm going to slide down, and I want to get to this block here. This is a very important block. What it does is it is linking this progress note to an IAP, which used to be called the treatment plan. Well, the first thing we want to do is click the Select Treatment Plan Version box, and we're going to link it to an IAP. The next thing is we're going to click the Select Treatment Plan Item Note Addresses, and that's going to bring a pop-up box of the latest IAP that was done and allow me to pick at whatever level, I'm going to click this, the goals, objectives, interventions that we want. And you can select more than one, you just have to do it in multiple iterations. So let's suppose that we wanted to have this intervention to move near a fruit stand because the objective was to eat fruits and vegetables, because the goal was to eat better, of which the assessed need was client is overweight. All right, I'm going to select this by clicking return, and it puts the needs, goals, objectives, and interventions in automatically. I don't have to retype it. Some people might be familiar with putting in an intervention or a goal number. We put in number 12. Well, that doesn't mean anything to anybody looking at it. This actually puts the text in of what you would actually put in on the IAP. So let me go back, and I'm going to say I'm going to pick a second intervention, and this one is going to be to buy better cereals. I'm going to click return, and this goal, objective, intervention is also there. So I have two that this note was addressing. Well, there's a number of other fields here, and again, you are required to enter all of these, but I will not be doing that for the purpose of this demo. I'm going to click File Note, but I just realized something. I didn't say whether this was going to be a draft or a final. So I'm going to scroll back up to the top, and there was up here, one additional required field which I did not enter, draft and final. If I say it's draft, it's going to go on my to-do list and allow me to bring it back up at a later date and finish it. Or I can just click final. In this case, I'm going to make it final. I'm going to scroll back down and I'm going to click File Note. This File Note is what's saving the note. If I look up here, there's a Submit button. Most forms, by clicking Submit, the data is saved. For progress notes, you have to click File Note. That's what's saving the note. I'm going to click this and let's see what happens. This is the summary of all the data that was actually entered. Now if you notice, there were lots and lots of fields on that prior screen, but these were the only fields which we actually put data into. Now we have the choice of accepting and routing, and rejecting, which brings us back. Accepting says we're completely done with it and no one else has to look at this. Accept and route is saying, well, we're done with it, but I want someone else to either co-sign or my supervisor needs to sign off on it. Well, the whole concept of document routing, we have 2 other videos for, so we won't be going into that now. We're just going to accept. Now it's asking for my password. Well, I already had typed in my password when I first logged in. The reason it's asking for one now is it wants to verify that I didn't walk away from my desk and someone else write a note under my name. So the way you authenticate is by typing in your password an additional time. Now, when you see note filed, you know that the save is complete. I'm going to click OK, and it looks like my form is still here. And if I scroll up, it still even has Robert Smith still listed. But that is only because the system gives me the ability to enter multiple notes one after another. And the current behavior is that the client name still stays up to allow me to do a second note on Robert Smith. We may or may not be changing that. If we do, the select client field would be blank. So I'm going to close at this point. Are you sure you want to close the form? Yes, because I've completed everything that I care about. And now if we look back in at our home page and I refresh my calendar, you're going to see that I have a blue E, which means that there's an existing note and I've completed the work that I needed to do. At this point, the progress note is complete and we've done everything we set out to achieve. Thank you for watching this Catholic Charities Netsmart training video. Please be sure to watch the others in the series for a further understanding of the Netsmart Avatar product.